Hello friends and fellow world builders, my name is AJ Winters and welcome back to World Builder. Today we're changing directions from the Tri-Lands and heading up north to the colder region of Aelwyn. To the northwest of the continent, we know that the colder winds descend down, turning the landscape to ice and snow. So the question becomes, what kind of civilizations live in this region? What are the flora and fauna like? What kind of monsters exist? And, knowing it's Ethid territory, what is the culture like? I am too excited, so let's get stuck in. To kick us off, I found these beautiful images of domed structures, kind of like giant greenhouses arching out of the mountainside. I could picture these giant structures protruding out from the snowy mountains we discussed last week, reflecting the icy lake beside it. And so, I started there. And wisely, I brought it to my live world building session on Twitch. Thank you to those who were able to join us. Sometimes the chaos that we dip into ends up with some pretty cool ideas. So, what started with conversations about geothermal vents existing below the ice that would balloon up into these structures turned into these structures being the locations of cities themselves within the dome, basically making it impervious to the freezing temperatures of the tundra outside of it. However, Serum 76 did bring up a particular issue with that. It would be really hard to maintain the inside of the dome. Things like mold, temperature differences, even the people within the dome structures using up all the oxygen and turning the air into something toxic. Which made me think, what if these domes were somehow organic? And now bear with me, organic glass does seem a bit strange. But we kept digging. With the very out-of-the-box suggestion of giant bugs with exoskeletons that we could then use to make the dome structures out of, thanks Serum, we actually ended up with something pretty cool. In the same way that a moth builds its cocoon to protect itself while it's growing, we thought, what if we could use the silk from a bug and turn it into silk glass? Silk glass is made from the leftover cocoons of giant insect creatures, and these insects can reach the size of an ancient dragon. I haven't decided whether they're going to replace dragons in this world yet, but we do know for certain that these creatures are going to be just as dangerous, if not more so. And taking into account that the creature would make these cocoons to survive sub-zero temperatures in the tundra of this region, the fibers would have to be great at thermal insulation. Which makes me think, how about if this silk glass actually survives by feeding off snow and ice on the outside of it, whilst maintaining the warm temperature on the inside for the citizens and plants of these dome structures to actually survive? It's almost breathable and self-sustaining. And thanks to Castellan, we actually have a name for these insectoid monsters too, Sleetwings. And it didn't just stop there. We proceeded to make an entire culture surrounding these monsters. And then we took it to the Discord chat. When we reached out about what you all might want to see in the colder region of Aelwyn, GrezWizard reached right back and suggested glowing ice caves. And so, in the life cycle of a Sleetwing, they start off as luminescent eggs frozen to the walls of an ice cave due to the Titan Sleetwing's ice breath. Yes, ice breath. You heard me correctly. And please keep that in mind as we continue. Then, when they hatch, the larvae are actually looked after by the citizens of these domed cities. They're harmless and useless in this state, and probably freaking adorable too. I can imagine that that's probably so that they don't get killed off, kind of like an evolutionary protection method. And we've called this stage of their life cycle Slush Grubs. Thank you so much to Bishop Blood for that suggestion. I don't know if it's the actual name of the creature or like the colloquial term for them, but I really like it. And then when they reach a certain size or a certain age, these slush grubs are returned back to the ice caves in order to cocoon. And I guess just left to grow. Keeping in mind how big they can actually get, they'll be there for a while. Then, when they reach the optimal size, they are carefully killed off within the cocoon so that they don't become the village-wiping sleetwings, or even worse, a titan sleetwing. Thank you so much to Dialogue for that name suggestion. It's terrifying and I love it. Thinking about this society where these slush grubs are lounging around in the warmth created from the winter sun shining through these silk glass structures, it just makes me think of the plants and lifestyle within these domed cities. For example, I don't think that there would be any sort of crops. There wouldn't be enough space for fields, which means that our dietary choices would come down to things that grow on vines, trees, or small potted plants, which doesn't necessarily limit our diet choices, it just means we have to get a little bit more creative. I also think that we should have a collection of these domed cities, maybe 5 in total in a cluster, that sort of rise out of the ice and snow in large towers, not only to protect them from whatever roams on the ground below, but also as a mechanism for controlling the temperature within the city. We even have a name for the city. Thank you to the collection of collaborators in Twitch chat the other night, we have now officially named this city Zunkara. Kara as a homage to carapace, and although we haven't settled on the meaning of the word Zun yet, we're thinking in the realm of either settlement or shield. Maybe that could even be a great debate within the city. And that offers us a really good role-playing situation if and when the players ever visit Zunkara. It is rather fascinating, because the eggs and cocoon of the slush grubs are luminescent in the caves. At nighttime, the silk glass above the city can sometimes reflect the light of the moon, as well as the lights from the city within, until it sort of creates a dancing luminescent light across the surface. Isn't it beautiful? Next, I wanted to dive into what the people of this city are actually like, which led me down the track of actually creating a new playable race. I found these gorgeous illustrations of minotaur-like hybrids. Large muscular types with goat, bull, or even moose features. And it got me thinking, I'd like to play around with a race that has a hoof and horn situation as well as short fur. I'm playing around with the name Arator as the species, with potential variants to come. They'll receive a bonus to con and strength, and most importantly, due to their location and their hide, a resistance to cold. They may even be descendants of minotaurs and satyrs long gone, but they stand upright, have hoofs, and any combination of horns, kind of like tieflings, from a bull to ram to impala, or even deer and moose variety. Their shorter fur is coloured in whites, browns, greys, and blacks, or even a two-toned combo. And they have humanoid features with large pointed ears under their horns. They can even grow hair, manes, or beards. Maybe we can even play around with some tail variations too. But I am so excited to add Arators into this world. Mostly in the colder region, but maybe they could even migrate. Or join more populated cities. Or even be part of Ethid tribes. But don't worry, we'll cover Ethids in next week's episode, so stay tuned for that. But being that the city of Zunkara will need to hunt outside of its domes for meat, I think that this race would make for great hunters in the icy wastelands. The question then becomes, what are they hunting? And although we're not going to be diving into the fauna of this region just yet, we did have an incredible submission from Serum76 when we asked about creatures in this region. He even sent a reference image for his creation. They call them Iskator.
Today we saw for the first time the massive bovine species we have come to this god-forsaken frozen wasteland to find. The Voren we rode north were less happy to be traversing in such freezing climate, so we ventured out on foot. I have also come to realize that most of the fur products worn here are from these creatures. The locals call them Tur for short. As a side note, the Utfoski are an amazing people. They wear and paint themselves in red to be seen in the snow. Please peruse my findings below in relation to the Tur that we were sent here to study. Common name, Tur. Scientific name, Iskator. Description: a large-trunked hexapod with even weight distribution amongst all of the limbs to balance on the ice. The front legs ending in solidified bone, behaviors have been recorded of these creatures using them to smash through the ice for drinking water. They have 4 dorsal plates, 2 feet tall down the spine, leading towards a thick tail. The locals hunt them very heavily for meat, as well as for their fur. Though most interesting of all, these creatures seem to avoid the mountains, presumably because of the sleetwings. With a heightened sense of smell, it's no surprise they avoid the area, even though sleetwings have not been seen for several decades.
I absolutely adore this addition to the colder region. And even the Udforski people could be an Ethid tribe that are protecting and maintaining the furthest land to the north. So, now we have a capital city of Zunkara, a new material based on the cocoons of sleetwings, a sleetwing, which is a new monster, a new animal called a Tuor, and a new playable race, an Arator. Now that I'm hearing those names back to back, I'm actually thinking that could be a really fun play on words. If someone was to slip up and call you an Aratur instead of an Arator, that could be like an insult, calling you a beef-headed creature or slow and dumb. That's a very interesting thing. I'm leaving it in there. We're having it. Okay. And then finally, we know that in regards to the landscape, anything past the frozen lake is covered in ice and snow. And that the further you descend down the continent, the warmer the temperature gets. But we also know that there's a giant forest right in the middle here that we have not explored. Though maybe we can tap into that when we discover the Ethid territories next week. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. I have had an absolute blast with all of these creations. If you want to stay up to date with everything going on in the background of this channel, as well as the upcoming tabletop RPG show that will be streaming in May, then you can follow us on all of the socials. If you want to be part of this community that we're building, as well as participate in our daily world building prompts, then you can join us over on Discord. If you would like a more personalized behind the scenes view, as well as downloadable PDFs of anything we create on this channel, then you can join us on Patreon. Or if you want to just come hang out and world build alongside us, then we have our live world building streams every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. AWST on twitch.tv/winterstales. I am so excited to bring this world to life, and we've also got a ton of exciting things coming out on this YouTube channel too, so you should probably subscribe and hit that bell so you get notified every time a new video comes out. But for now, I'll see you next week.